Part 2: The Cry for Mercy. The galaxy was breaking. The Veeri Alliance had lived for centuries in peace. They had grown under the belief that war was only a memory, something from the dark ages of history. Their fleets were designed for patrol and ceremony, not for destruction. Their weapons were meant for defense, not conquest. They traded, they studied, they built beautiful cities across the stars. They had believed that peace would last forever, but then came the core. The core were not conquerors. They were not an empire with laws or culture. They were a hunger that never ended. Their ships did not land to rule. They landed to strip. They devoured oceans, burned forests, and dragged whole populations into their endless swarm. Entire worlds fell silent within weeks. Cities that once sang with light turned into black scars across dead planets. On Veeri Prime, the heart of the Alliance, the Council gathered. The chamber was vast, with tall glass windows that looked out into the stars. Normally it was filled with calm voices debating trade or art. Now it was filled with trembling whispers and desperate cries. Counselor Terran, a tall, slender being with wings folded tight against her back, rose to speak. Her voice shook, though she tried to sound strong. "The core have taken 12 worlds in only 3 cycles," she said. "They leave nothing behind but ash. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our defenses are shattered." Around her, leaders from a dozen species looked away, unable to meet her eyes. Some clutched their hands together. Others wept openly. A smaller counselor, Elder Mareth, leaned forward. His face was pale, his eyes heavy with sorrow. "If this continues, the Alliance will be gone before the next turn of the stars. Our children will be slaves. Our histories will be erased. We must act, but how?" Another cried. "Our fleets are destroyed. Our soldiers are scattered. What can we do against an enemy that never stops?" For a long moment no one spoke. The chamber was filled only with the sound of trembling breath. At last, Elder Mareth spoke again, his voice low, almost unwilling. "There is one world," the chamber stirred. "There is one world the core have never touched, a world the Alliance has avoided for centuries, a place of storms and poison seas, a place filled with predators that hunt even in the daylight. Its people are dangerous." He paused, as if speaking the words carried a heavy weight. "Its name is Earth." The silence that followed was different now. It was not fear of the core. It was fear of something else. Counselor Terran's wings shivered. "Earth," she whispered. "The Death World." Another leader shook his head violently. "No, we swore never to call them. Their kind are not like us. They are violent, reckless, untamed. If we open our doors to them, we may save our worlds from the core only to destroy them with the humans. But we are already dying," Elder Mareth said softly. His voice was almost a plea. "If we do nothing, there will be no Alliance left. Perhaps even no galaxy left. We swore never to call them, but maybe the time for promises is over." The chamber erupted in argument. Some shouted in fear, others in anger. Some cried that it was better to fall with dignity than to invite monsters into their homes. Others shouted that survival was all that mattered, and if monsters could save them, then let monsters come. Finally, the High Speaker of the Council rose. She was old, her scales silver with age, her eyes dim but still sharp. She lifted her staff and silence fell. "We have lived in peace for centuries," she said. "We believed the galaxy was gentle. We believed war was behind us. But peace has made us soft. We built no weapons for great battles. We raised no warriors for true war. And now the core come and we cannot stop them. We are prey, standing before the predator." Her gaze swept the chamber. "Perhaps it is time to call upon those who are not prey." The words struck deep. None dared answer. The High Speaker raised her staff again. "Send the plea. Across the void. To Earth, beg them for mercy." A shiver went through every leader in the chamber. The decision was made. The message was prepared and carried on beams of light across the stars. It was short but heavy with desperation. "To the people of Earth, we are dying. Our fleets have fallen. Our worlds burn. We cannot survive. We beg for mercy. We beg for your help." When it was sent, the council sat in silence. Some wept, some prayed, some stared at the floor with hollow eyes. For many, this felt like the end. For others, it felt like the beginning of something far worse. They did not know what the humans would do. They did not know if Earth would answer. They only knew one truth. The galaxy had pleaded for mercy, and mercy from Earth might not come in the shape they hoped for. Part 3. The Monsters of Earth. The Corps did not wait. They had sensed the humans' arrival almost instantly, their hive minds like currents in the void. They had expected another prey, another weak species to crush quickly. Latharis was a lush world filled with oceans, jungles, and sprawling cities. To the Corps it was easy pickings. But the humans saw it differently. The first wave of Corps ships entered the atmosphere in a storm of fire and metal. The sky darkened as their war machines descended, a black cloud blotting out the sun. The Viari on orbit watched in horror. Their fleets tried to engage, but the Corps' sheer numbers overwhelmed them. Ships were torn apart in seconds, swallowed by plasma and claws. Then came the humans. From orbit, Terran dropships plummeted like meteors, breaking through the atmosphere with thunder and fire. Each one landed with precision, shaking the ground, sending animals and debris scattering. Soldiers poured out in armored suits, each carrying weapons unfamiliar to the Viari. They moved quickly, silently, and with deadly efficiency. The Viari fleet commander whispered, "What? What are they doing?" "They fight like nothing we have ever seen," answered an officer, gripping the railing. The humans struck immediately. Ambushes from the dense forest tore apart the Corps ground forces before they even realized humans were there. Rockets, blades, and strange energy weapons sliced through alien armor with terrifying precision. The humans moved as predators, disappearing into smoke and reappearing where least expected. One Corps warlord, a massive creature with 6 arms and teeth like spears, charged a human unit. Within moments, a Terran soldier fired a weapon that struck with a thunderous roar. The warlord fell, its body splitting under the force. The humans did not hesitate. They did not pause to mourn. Their fury was calculated yet unstoppable. Counselor Thren watched from orbit, her wings trembling. "They are monsters," she whispered. "Yes," another officer replied. "But they are our monsters." The Viari soon realized that humanity's approach was unlike anything they had known. Where the Viari fought with formations, honor, and strategy, the humans used survival itself as their guide. They struck, retreated, vanished, and returned from places the Corps assumed were empty. They learned the enemy, adapting instantly to every new threat. A trap set by the Corps was turned against them within moments. Entire squads of humans disappeared only to strike at the heart of the swarm, and yet the humans showed no mercy to the Corps. Those captured were eliminated without hesitation. The Viari shuddered at the violence but understood the necessity. Mercy here meant extinction for the innocent. One young Viari soldier, barely trained, watched in disbelief. "How can they do this?" he asked. "They are killing without pause, without mercy." An older officer put a hand on his shoulder. "Because if they do not, there will be nothing left for any of us. That is how they survived their world. That is why we called them." The humans moved like shadows across the battlefield, appearing where none expected. They used the environment, forest, cliffs, rivers to their advantage. Every strike was precise. Every action was measured for survival. They seemed almost inhuman, yet every motion was calculated with the sharp instinct of someone who had lived in constant danger. Amid the chaos, the Corps realized they had misjudged Earth's warriors. They had assumed weakness. They had assumed civility, and they had been wrong. The humans pressed forward, breaking the Corps lines, scattering them into panic. Their voices were calm, their movements disciplined, yet each carried the quiet weight of a world that had taught them to survive at all costs. Where once the Corps laughed at resistance, now they hesitated, uncertain. Counselor Thren could hardly breathe as she observed. The humans, the monsters she had feared, were the only reason hope remained. One human soldier, young but fierce, swung a heavy blade through a Corps claw, then pulled back, scanning the shadows for the next threat. Another tossed grenades that sent swarms of Corps screaming into the air. The battlefield was chaos, yet every action served a purpose. The humans were not soldiers in the traditional sense. They were predators born of hardship, and every instinct they had honed for survival now protected an entire planet. The Viari began to understand the truth of the captain's words. "To your enemies, our mercy looks like monsters." As night fell over Latharis, the humans did not stop. Fires burned across the battlefield, reflecting off armor and scales. The Corps' numbers dwindled. The humans regrouped quietly, sharing no words but communicating with gestures, eyes, and subtle signals. They were a single organism of destruction, trained by necessity, strengthened by survival. By dawn, the first battle was over. The Corps retreated, leaving behind broken machines, fallen soldiers, and the shattered remains of their assault. The humans stood among the wreckage, unbowed, unbroken, their faces scarred by fire and exhaustion. Counselor Thren exhaled, a single tear falling from her eye. "They are monsters," she whispered again. "Yes," the officer beside her said softly, voice shaking with awe. "But they are our monsters, and now they fight for us." The realization spread through the Vayari ranks. The humans were not gentle. They were not idealized heroes. They were something far more powerful, predators of the highest order, relentless and unforgiving, yet loyal to those who called them. And as the sun rose over the devastated battlefield, one thought echoed in the minds of every Vayari watching from orbit. If mercy comes in this form, perhaps the galaxy still has a chance. The Terran monsters had arrived, and the Corps would never forget them. Part 4. The Price of Survival. Victory was never clean. The humans had pushed the Corps back from Latharis, but the cost was visible everywhere. Cities lay in ruins, forests had burned, rivers ran thick with debris, and smoke filled the skies like a permanent dusk. The Vayari citizens wandered among the wreckage, staring at homes that would never be rebuilt. Many were too afraid to speak. Some could only cling to their children and weep. Yet the humans moved calmly among the devastation. They did not celebrate. They did not mourn. Their eyes were steady, scanning for threats, their hands ready for the next attack. To them, destruction was only a part of survival, a tool, a weapon, a warning to those who preyed on the weak. Counselor Thren walked among them, her wings folded tightly as she tried to understand. She saw humans dragging wounded Vayari soldiers to safety, but also saw the bodies of Corps soldiers left in the dirt, crushed or burned. There was no hesitation, no remorse. She finally asked the human captain, voice trembling with emotion, Why do you fight like this? You kill without pause. You show no mercy to them even when they beg. Do you not fear becoming the very monsters you fight?" The captain looked at her, eyes hard and tired. His face was streaked with soot and sweat. For a moment there was silence, broken only by the distant cries of survivors. "Every day we fear it," he said quietly. "Every day we wonder if we are becoming the monsters the universe thinks we are. But if we hesitate, if we give mercy to predators like the Corps, your people die. Your cities burn. Your children are eaten. We do what must be done. That is survival." Thren's wings drooped. She wanted to look away, but she could not. There was a raw honesty in his words, a truth she had never heard in the polite diplomacy of the Alliance. Humans were not gentle heroes. They were predators, born of worlds that had tested every instinct for survival, sharpened by storms, poison, and predators that did not forgive weakness. "They are dangerous," whispered another Vayari officer nearby. "Too dangerous to trust." "Yes," Thren agreed quietly. "But also, the only reason we live." The humans worked quickly to organize the remaining forces of the Alliance. They trained Vayari soldiers to adapt, to survive, to fight like predators when needed. The Vayari had thought they understood war, but humans taught them a different kind. War that was not elegant, not orderly, but effective. For the Vayari, it was frightening. The humans moved without pause, setting traps, ambushing enemies, striking from shadows. They took risks no other species would dare. And yet it worked. Every Corps attack met humans prepared to counter it, always ready, always deadly. But every victory carried its price. Children watched burned villages. Mothers clutched their families in terror, unable to fully understand what had happened. The humans never looked away from the suffering, but they never faltered. They moved as though destruction and protection were the same act. Thren could feel the unease growing in the council. Some questioned whether calling the humans had been wise. "They save us," one leader whispered, "but at what cost? They are not like us. They do not think as we do. Can we trust them?" Thren's heart ached as she watched humans lead another strike against remaining Corps pockets. The humans did not pause to question morality, only survival. Yet every move saved countless lives. They were the monsters the Council had feared, yet also the saviors they had begged for. That night, Thren walked among the survivors. She saw fear and awe mirrored on their faces. Children whispered about the Death World warriors, naming the humans in tones both reverent and terrified. Parents nodded, silently agreeing, though many still trembled. In the quiet of the ruined city, she approached the human captain again. "How can you fight like this?" she asked. "Without mercy, without pause. Do you not feel pain?" The captain looked at the horizon where fires still burned and distant screams echoed. "Of course we feel pain," he said softly. "Of course we remember our dead. But pain cannot stop us. Death cannot stop us. Every day we survive is proof that mercy alone is not enough. We have learned to fight as the universe fights back, hard, relentless, and without apology. If mercy is to exist for the innocent, then someone must carry the fury." Thren bowed her head. She finally understood. Mercy was not always gentle. Sometimes mercy required strength beyond imagination. Sometimes it required monsters. The humans had become those monsters, and yet, watching them walk among the ruins, saving lives even as they destroyed, she saw the truth. The galaxy would survive not because of hope alone, but because Earth had sent its children, forged in fire and death, to stand against the darkness. That night, Veari Prime slept with uneasy gratitude. Fires still burned in distant cities. Shadows of core ambushes lingered, and the air smelled of ash. Yet a spark of hope remained. The humans, the monsters from Earth, had shown the galaxy what survival truly meant, and the core would never forget it. Part 5. The Turning Tide. News of the humans' arrival spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Where once the core had struck with confidence, now whispers of the Terran warriors reached every system. The preyed-upon species spoke in hushed tones about the Deathworld monsters who had arrived to protect them. Fear, awe, and hope mixed in equal measure. Even the smallest trading colonies told stories of humans who had survived storms that would have killed entire worlds, who had faced predators larger than mountains and returned victorious. The Veari, who had only known polished fleets and disciplined drills, were astonished. They had seen humans fight at Letheris and could barely comprehend what they had witnessed. The humans did not follow military doctrine. They did not wait for orders. They adapted, they learned, they struck with precision and speed that left both friend and foe in awe. Where once the core had been unstoppable, now they faltered, unsure where the next attack would come from. Counselor Thren watched as humans trained the Veari soldiers. The humans showed them how to use the environment, how to move silently, how to anticipate the enemy. They taught them not to fight like soldiers, but to fight like survivors. The Veari struggled at first. Their instincts were polite, restrained, built for careful diplomacy. But the humans pushed them, encouraged them, and forced them to embrace a harsher reality. Survival demanded brutality. The first joint mission was terrifying. Veari soldiers clung to the humans as they moved through the core-infested jungles. Explosions rocked the trees. Claws sliced through the undergrowth. The humans led every strike with calm determination, dragging the frightened Veari along. When a core warband attacked from behind, the humans countered instantly. They moved like shadows, striking from unexpected angles. Rockets, blades, and strange earth weapons tore through the enemy, leaving the Veari in awe. "They are unstoppable," whispered one young Veari soldier, eyes wide as he watched a human slice through 3 core with a single swing of a blade. How can they do this?" "Because they were forged in fire," another answered softly. "They survived a world that would have killed us all. They know no hesitation. They know no mercy, and they fight to protect those who cannot fight for themselves." Over the following cycles, the humans led strike after strike against core positions. Entire swarms that once swept through systems now hesitated at the mention of human presence. Their attacks became cautious, fragmented. The galaxy, which had trembled before the core, began to hope. The humans did not seek glory. They did not ask for thanks. They moved from system to system, saving worlds, teaching allies, and leaving a trail of stories that spread faster than any message. Wherever humans fought, the core faltered. Even hardened soldiers who had never known fear began to whisper about the earthborn warriors who struck like storms, disappeared like shadows, and left devastation in their wake. Counselor Thren often observed them from the bridge of her flagship. She saw their calm in chaos, their precision in violence, and the strange way they cared for the weak even as they destroyed the enemy. It was terrifying and beautiful all at once. She realized that these humans were not just soldiers. They were legends in the making, monsters born of hardship, yet saviors for those in need. Yet, with every victory, the cost weighed on the humans. They bore scars from battles, carried grief for those who had fallen and yet moved forward. No pause, no hesitation. They understood that survival demanded constant vigilance. They grieved privately but never let it slow them. The turning tide of the war became clear during a massive battle on the ice world of Crix 7. The Corps launched an overwhelming attack, expecting easy victory, but the humans had anticipated it. They had laid traps, positioned allies, and created diversions. When the Corps struck, they were met with precise counterattacks that cut through their ranks. Humans fought side by side with Veari soldiers, leading them, protecting them, teaching them. By the end of the battle, the Corps had lost half their invading force. The survivors retreated in confusion and fear, something the Corps had never known. As the Veari cheered and celebrated the rare victory, Counselor Thren stood silently, reflecting. The humans had saved countless lives, but they were not heroes in the traditional sense. They were monsters, yes, but monsters with purpose, discipline, and loyalty. The galaxy might never fully understand them, but it could no longer deny them. One night, as fires burned across a reclaimed city, Thren approached the human captain. "Your people, they fight like predators," she said quietly, "but you save lives at the same time. How do you bear it?" The captain looked at her with tired eyes. "Every life we save is proof that our way works. We fight like monsters because monsters are what it takes to survive in this universe. But the goal is always mercy for those who cannot defend themselves. That is what drives us forward." Thren nodded slowly. She realized that humans had redefined hope for the galaxy. Mercy was no longer gentle or polite. Mercy came with teeth, claws, fire, and precision. Mercy was the monsters from Earth, and the galaxy was learning to survive because of them. The Corps would learn soon enough. Part 6, Mercy of Monsters. The final battle came at the edge of the galaxy. The Corps had gathered every surviving force, determined to crush the last resistance. Their swarm filled the skies above the planet Orvath, a world scarred by previous battles, its oceans blackened by the residue of war. The Veari fleets trembled in orbit, knowing that if this battle failed, there would be no second chance. But the humans did not hesitate. Their dropships tore through the atmosphere, landing with the precision of falling meteors. Soldiers spilled out onto the surface, weapons ready, eyes calm but burning with determination. They were the monsters the galaxy had feared, but also the saviors it needed. Counselor Thren watched from the command bridge of her flagship. She had seen humans fight before, but never on this scale. Thousands of Terrans moved across the battlefield, coordinating without words, striking with the precision of predators and the focus of survivors who had lived through hell. The Corps attacked in waves, a living tide of claws, teeth, and machinery. The humans met them without pause. Explosions lit the sky. Rockets tore through armor. Blades struck like lightning. Humans disappeared into smoke and reappeared where the Corps least expected. Every strike was calculated. Every action was survival. The Veari tried to fight alongside them, but quickly realized that humans operated on a level they could not match. The humans did not fight for honor or recognition. They fought for life itself, and every second mattered. As the hours dragged on, the humans pushed the Corps back. Entire swarms collapsed under relentless precision. The Corps, who had once known only victory, now felt fear. Their hive minds pulsed with confusion as humans anticipated every attack, countering with speed and ferocity that seemed impossible. Amid the chaos, Thren saw the human captain leading a squad through a valley of fire, dragging injured Veari soldiers to safety, while cutting through enemy lines. His face was streaked with soot, blood, and sweat, but his eyes remained sharp. Even when surrounded, the humans never hesitated, never faltered. They were monsters, yes, but monsters with purpose. One young Veari soldier shouted from a ridge, pointing at a human squad cutting down a massive Corps warlord. "They are unstoppable." Thren nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "They are the only reason we survive." Hours turned into cycles. The Corps realized they could not win. Their coordination failed. Their attacks faltered. Terran strategy and sheer instinct shattered the enemy completely. By the time night fell on Orvath, the Corps were retreating, screaming into the void, their once mighty swarm broken. The humans did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They regrouped silently, ensuring no Corps remained to strike again. They checked the injured, salvaged weapons and prepared for another wave, even when they knew there would be none. Exhaustion weighed on them, yet they remained vigilant. Counselor Thren approached the human captain as the fires dimmed. Her voice shook as she said, "We begged for mercy, and you came, but not as we imagined. You came as monsters. You destroyed our enemies completely, and yet you saved us." The captain's tired eyes met hers. He lowered his weapon slightly. "Mercy does not always wear a gentle face," he said quietly. "Sometimes mercy comes with teeth, with claws, with fire. Sometimes the universe only understands survival through strength. We fight as monsters because someone must. But what we protect, that is mercy." Thren bowed her head, understanding finally settling in her heart. Humanity had redefined the meaning of mercy. It was not softness or pity. It was the courage to do what must be done, no matter the cost, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The Vayari and other species slowly emerged from hiding. Survivors hugged each other, wept and whispered stories of the Terran warriors who had fought beside them. Children named them legends. Parents called them saviors. The galaxy had learned something fundamental. Strength and survival were not cruel. They could be the very definition of mercy. The humans did not seek praise or honor. They prepared to leave Orvath quietly, boarding their ships and returning to the stars. Thren understood that their work was never finished. Their kind of mercy had no end, no rest. They moved where needed, striking fear into predators, saving the helpless and leaving legends behind. As the humans departed, the Vayari Council gathered. They looked at the stars where humans had disappeared into the void and realized something profound. The galaxy had survived not because of hope or diplomacy, but because the monsters of Earth had answered the call. For generations to come, stories would be told. Tales of monsters who brought mercy, tales of humans who fought like predators but saved like angels, tales of the Terran warriors who came when the weak pleaded, who destroyed the unrelenting predators, and who redefined what it meant to survive. And somewhere, in the dark stretches of space, the core remembered the humans. They would never forget the monsters who came to mercy the galaxy. Counselor Thren whispered to herself, looking at the stars. "When we begged for mercy, they came. And in their fury, they saved us all. The humans were gone, but their presence remained forever, etched into the history of the galaxy. A reminder that when the weak cry for help, the Terran monsters answer. And in their fury, there is mercy." Part 2. The Arrival. The message had been sent. Across the stars it traveled, carried on beams of light and bursts of signal. Desperate and raw, it crossed empty voids, past dying suns, and reached places no Vayari ship had ever dared to go. The words were simple. "We beg for mercy. Help us." Weeks passed in silence. The council waited with heavy hearts. Every day another world fell to the core. Every day more refugees poured into Vayari Prime, broken and hollow-eyed. The air of the grand capital filled with the sound of mourning. Mothers wailed for lost children. Fathers sat staring at nothing. Children cried in the streets. Some counselors began to lose hope. "They will not come," whispered one. "The humans will not answer. Why would they risk themselves for us?" Others feared the opposite. "What if they do come? What if they arrive and we cannot control them? What if their mercy destroys us all?" Yet beneath the fear and doubt, one truth remained: without help, the alliance was finished. And then, one quiet night, the skies above Vayari Prime changed forever. The stars bent, and space itself tore open. From the rift came ships, huge, dark, scarred by battle. They did not gleam like the polished cruisers of the Alliance. They were brutal, jagged, armored like predators. The sight of them struck fear into every watching heart. The humans had arrived. On the surface, crowds gathered near the landing fields. Refugees, soldiers, and citizens pressed together, staring upward. The great engines of the Terran fleet thundered as ships descended. The ground shook as they landed, their hulls blackened from countless wars. The first ramp opened. Out of the smoke stepped human soldiers. They were tall, their faces hard and weathered. Their armor bore scratches and burns. Their weapons looked heavy, brutal, designed not for beauty but for killing. These were not gentle beings. These were survivors. Counselor Thren stood at the front of the welcoming line. Her wings trembled, though she tried to keep her head high. Around her, other leaders shifted nervously, some trying to hide behind her. others clutching their ceremonial staffs as if for protection. A man stepped forward from the human ranks. His face was scarred, his eyes sharp and cold, yet there was something steady in his gaze. His armor bore no shining crest, only marks of battle. He spoke in a voice that was low and firm, carrying across the silence. "You called for help. We have come." The counselors bowed, though some did so with hesitation. Counselor Thren forced herself to meet his eyes. Her voice cracked as she spoke. We begged for mercy. We asked for help." The man nodded once. His gaze swept across the refugees, the broken families, the haunted faces. Something hardened in him. "You asked for mercy," he said slowly, "and mercy is what we'll give. But understand this. Our mercy is not what you imagine. To your enemies, our mercy will look like monsters." The words echoed in the air, chilling and strange. Some of the Vayari leaders exchanged fearful looks. One whispered to another, "Monsters?" He admits it. They are monsters, but in the crowd, a refugee, a mother holding her child, whispered back with trembling hope, "Then let the monsters be on our side." The humans moved among the people, their eyes scanning everything with soldiers' caution. They did not speak much. They did not smile. They carried themselves as if every moment might bring battle. The children of the Vayari hid behind their parents, peeking out at the strange beings. Some cried at the sight of the scarred faces and harsh armor. Others stared in awe, whispering about the warriors who came from the death world. Later, in the council chamber, the human captain stood before the leaders. "The Corps will come again," he said. "When they do, you cannot stand against them alone. But we can. We have fought predators all our lives. We have survived storms, poisoned beasts with claws greater than ships. War is the breath we were born into. If you want survival, you must accept how we fight," Counselor Thren asked, her voice trembling. "And how do you fight?" The captain's eyes grew cold. "Without mercy, without hesitation. We end the enemy before they end us. That is how we survived our world. That is how we will save yours." The chamber was silent. The Vayari leaders felt both fear and relief. They had called for saviors, but what had arrived were not saviors. They were predators dressed in human form. And yet, deep inside, a spark of hope grew. Perhaps monsters were exactly what the galaxy needed.